Hi everyone, I'm Nara Chagas and this is what's happening in Brazil. We start by updating you on the latest news from the country. On October 18th, the final report of the Mixed Parliamentary Commission of Inquiry that investigates the January 8 coup attempt was approved for 20 votes to 11. The report requests indictment of 61 people by the Federal Public Ministry and the Federal Police, among them the former President Jair Bolsonaro and 30 military officers. Parliamentarians on the government base highlighted that there should be no amnesty for those responsible for crimes. President Lula decided to partially veto the time frame limitation bill, which establishes that indigenous peoples could only demand land they were already fighting for before 1988, the year when Brazil's constitution was promulgated. 20 articles of the bill were vetoed. Despite this, the indigenous movement evaluated that the two articles that remained opened the door to the financial exploitation of indigenous lands by non-indigenous people. Since the beginning of the conflict between Israel and Hamas on October 7th, many manifestations in solidarity for Palestine have been held in Brazil. In recent days, protests in many Brazilian cities denounced the genocide of the population in the Gaza Strip by Israeli bombardments. Last Saturday, October 21st, about 120 families from the landless workers movement were expelled by the military police from an occupation in the city of Canoinhas, in the state of Santa Catarina. According to the movement, the area is known in Brazil as Terra Devoluta and belongs to the state. The movement claims that the military police acted violently and 6 members were illegally detained. The level of the Uruguay River remains at historical marks in the northwest of the state of Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil's extreme southern area. The flood is one of the biggest in the last 40 years and caused floods in several municipalities in the region. According to forecasts, there is a risk of more floods in nearby regions due to water runoff. The Senate may soon vote on a bill already approved by the Chamber of Deputies that changed the rules on the use of pesticides in Brazil, known as Poison Bill. Some changes are still being negotiated by the bill's rapporteur, but may not be enough to curb the worries of environmental and healthcare entities.
The so-called Poison Bill that changes the rules to approve and sell pesticides in Brazil will soon be voted by the Brazilian Senate. Last year, the bill was approved by the Chamber of Deputies. Senator Fabiano Contarato from the Workers' Party is the rapporteur. He requested more time to negotiate another round of changes.
There was a recent change in the bill, something more positive than what we had before. Anyway, it keeps being a very concerning situation for us from the point of view of the health of the population, which is Fiocruz's mission. That's why we are doing all this, a lot of work, warning parliamentarians and the society about its risks.
Indeed, Senator Contarato improved the text to the bill, but unfortunately these improvements aren't enough to make the society, Greenpeace, and organizations to accept the bill to be voted on. Right now, we understand there are talks to make it even better.
Even the most optimistic people think some points considered extremely harmful will continue in the text. They were listed in documents produced and released by entities such as Fiocruz and Abrasco, the Brazilian Public Health Association. The most structural of them would be the proposal to transfer all responsibility for the release of pesticides in Brazil to the Ministry of Agriculture, going over the tripartite division that has been made with the Ministries of Environment and Health since 1988.
It's so incisive in the perspective of liberating the use of them that it even eliminates the name pesticide, which is an internationally recognized name. And the name speaks for itself, shows what we are talking about. Something toxic that's been present. There is no thesis of zero risk.
que está sendo posta.
Even before any review of the current law, the Brazilian population was already dealing with the harms of using pesticides. In addition to those who consume the food that arrives in the cities, the most affected are those who live in communities neighboring the areas where plantations such as corn, soybean, and cotton rule. That's what a dossier developed by the National Campaign in Defense of the Cerrado and by Pastoral da Terra in partnership with Fiocruz shows. The survey, carried out in 7 different states, analyzed samples of pesticides found in the water and in the air in areas close to the soybean cultivation, a product chosen because it is by far the one that uses the biggest amount and variety of pesticides.
In these 7 communities, and considering the 2 cycles, we recorded a total of 13 active agents, all of them authorized to be used in soybean plantations in Brazil. However, they do not have authorization from the European Union. Besides, we found glyphosate in all Brazilian states. It's a pesticide we already know is harmful. Many researchers are proving it. In Brazil, the limit of this pesticide in drinkable water is 5 times bigger than that of the European Union. Just at the 24D, we also find.
According to a study, in 2018 alone, over 600 million liters of pesticides were poured in plantations in the Cerrado biome, which is also marked by deforestation and land conflicts. Researchers say there are under notification of cases due to pressure from agribusiness and local medical teams' unawareness. Despite this, reports collected indicate the scale of the problem.
These communities as a whole report collateral effects on a daily basis, mainly problems related to their skin, allergies, itchy skin, and cases of cancer rising in many communities, and even in towns close to these areas. Other effects are those related to hormones, migraine, and eye pain.
Questões hormonais.
In recent weeks, shocking images of drought in Amazonas state took the headlines. Photos of Amazon River dolphins and fish dead, dry rivers, the smoke that invaded the city of Manaus due to fires. Indigenous communities are also suffering from the extreme climate and demand more visibility and measures by the public administration.
In the Betânia community, home of the Ticuna indigenous people in the town of Santo Antônio do Içá, the landscape isn't the same anymore. The Içá River, which supplies the city, looks like a desert. The extreme drought affecting Amazonas state exposes the historical vulnerabilities faced by indigenous people in the region. An example of that is in the water supply. Without artesian wells, the main source used to be rivers and water streams that cross the territories. But the water from the Solimões River and its tributaries has gone, and many communities are dealing with thirst. According to Mariazinha Baré, the coordinator of the Articulation of Indigenous Organizations and Peoples of the Amazon, another vulnerability is territorial security. She says that non-indigenous people are taking advantage of the drought to invade lands and illegally fish.
Os peixes estão morrendo nos lagos.
The fish are dying in the lakes, and there is another aggravating factor, the non-indigenous invaders. They are invading the territories because the fish are dying, so they need to be removed. It's better to remove them, but why not provide indigenous peoples with the condition to remove and store the fish so they can eat them?
In the Porto da Praia indigenous community, in the town of Tefé, one of the most affected areas, people are isolated. It is hard to access water, food, and urban area to withdraw money from social aid programs such as Bolsa Família. Children's classes were suspended. The boats, now useless, are lined up in small lakes where there was the bottom of the Solimões River. The smoke spreading through Manaus also reached the native people's communities. They had to run to save their houses, animals, and plantations. In their territories, they have been using the little water at hand to put out the fires, according to indigenous leader Mariazinha Baré.
Porque queimadas no estado do Amazonas.
Fires in the Amazon state aren't common, and now we are seeing fires inside indigenous lands. We don't know if these are criminal actions or not. In the town of Coari, people said they think these are arsons to criminalize native peoples, because that's the reality, unfortunately. They don't like indigenous peoples, so they set fire to criminalize us.
Aos indígenas, porque infelizmente é uma realidade.
The situation is described as chaotic in the Javari Valley, an indigenous land in the western portion of Amazonas state. The indigenous peoples in the region live under the threat of drug dealers and illegal fishermen who assassinated British journalist Dom Phillips and indigenous expert Bruno Pereira. The battle now is against drought, which prevents food transportation. Last week, Vice President Geraldo Alckmin announced dredging works on the Solimões riverbed in the portion that connects Manaus to the Javari Valley. The Amazonas state government stated that it would provide basic needs grocery packages for the affected populations. In Amazonas state, indigenous organizations demand from the government to declare a state of climate emergency in the region.
Did you like the show? So hit the like button and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to receive notifications. We'll see you next week.